I feel high.
That was a good episode.
I feel like I was like, I don't know. I feel like I need a minute. Whew. So we have 4 more? 4, 5.
That was 16. Yeah. 17, 18, 19, 24.
I just like...
I'm very curious if we're still building to something.
To something?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching Riverdale, Season 7, Episode 16.
Chapter 133, Stag.
I just, like, I want to wait and see, you know, how it ends, what we do before I declare victory. But we've sort of been... This has been a victory lap for us for the past 16 episodes.
The whole season so far.
And I'm just sort of...
Immaculate.
I don't want to jinx it, but I just don't think I'm going to.
Yeah.
I love this. I don't think I've ever seen... I mean, I've seen good shows.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a show rebound like this.
Well, no, and also, but again, we keep saying where it's like, it was season 5 that was like garbage, and we kind of liked season 6 because it had all the Riverdale stuff and then the regular season, and so it's been on an upswing for 2 seasons now. But
just for the rest of our lives, when we're contemplating quitting a show, we're going to have to look at each other and be like, well, Riverdale.
Yeah.
Riverdale pulled it out. It's like it either remembered what it was or realized what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but I can't think, certainly not recently, and I can't think off the top of my head of the amount of times that a show, it seems like they had a meeting.
Yeah.
Multiple meetings.
Yeah.
And we're like, what do we have? And what are we trying to accomplish?
So that's the thing, because like the whole time, especially when we were in like the worst parts of season 5, where we were getting so hung up on I was getting so hung up on like the Veronica and Hiram stuff, and like nobody was acting the way we thought they should be. It was like every time we sat down to talk about it. Well, it was plot with no
character.
Exactly. And so it was like every time we sat down to talk about it, we were like, how does production have all of these toys and doesn't know how to play with them? Like, that seems crazy. And now... It's like they realized how to play with their toys.
Well, but that's what I mean, where I'm like, it's like they either remembered or even realized, because it's like season 1 was really good. And there was really, I mean, even 5, there's good material in it. But
I feel like it felt executed.
Thoughtless or careless.
It was like executed
as I recall.
Poorly, yeah.
Because it's like, well, I want to get this out of the way. We'll come back to it in the end. But Jughead sans Ethel.
Yeah, she's been MIA.
He and his boss,
Mr.
Fieldstone, they're getting like a Hays Code type thing for comic books, and they're fighting it, and it was like the least sexy part of the episode.
Yeah.
I mean that in both ways, but it was good material, and it's really tricky to tread topical material.
Yeah.
When your audience is battered up against the ropes, you know what I mean? And the fact that they're doing it, I think the one step removed of it being in the 50s is helping.
Sure.
But we've watched entire shows where it's like, no, I get it. I get that they're trying to make an illusion, but it's like,
well, that's what I think is actually kind of refreshing about this, is it's not an illusion. It's just direct. It's like,
well,
it's
the censorship and the establishment coming in and being like, oh, we and we alone can decide what you can handle. And it's like, typically, or on a lesser well-made show, I would feel frustrated and exhausted. And I was like, I don't want to watch this. I'm trying to get away from this. And this is it's engaging my, like, like, take back the night. Like, it's engaging that part of me.
Well, and also, like, Dr. Werthers and the principal and Clifford Blossom.
One, what's her face from the Sisters Quiet?
The nun. Yeah. They're, like, comically evil about the whole thing.
But I love bringing them in, like the fact that I can't remember her name, the sister's name, but it's like the fact that she's there, it helps it feel like a culmination in the way that it is, where we're sort of like bringing in, and like I said, I mean, I think it's a slightly weird choice to be giving characters like Evelyn Evernever this much, but it works. And especially a show like this that frequently has main characters playing double duty, the fact that we have seemingly benched villain Cheryl.
Yeah.
is, and in that regard, then fuck yes, bring in Evelyn Evernever as if it spares us, like, and even Alice, they're doing something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is, but there is a reveal coming.
Well, sure. So like, even for me, even if we just ride this high through to the end and we don't actually do any kind of resolution, I think I'm still gonna go out on top with this being my favorite season of Riverdale. Because, like, even if there's not, like, a culmination episode, like, even if the finale isn't, like, a finale.
Because the season's a culmination.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that the show understood that one of their key dynamics is Betty and her mother.
Yeah.
And that we have devoted, I mean, because there's been Betty and Veronica, there's Betty and Archie, and Betty and Alice.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing with Betty this season.
Yeah.
And bringing in Polly, if you've been with us the whole time, it's a roller coaster. I hated Polly at one point.
For a long time. I was a Polly apologist the whole run. I was like, she's not as bad as you're making her out to be.
I hated her so much.
So much. It was the same. It was always giving me the same feeling I had about Jughead, where I was like, I think Jughead's kind of neat. And you would be like, Jughead fucking blows.
Which she just was in too much of it for how boring I found her. Sure. And is it Tira or Tara Scoveby?
I think it's Tira.
Tira? Yeah. Tira, I owe you an apology or kudos or whatever it is. I want to. She was great in this episode.
Yeah. And you've also still never watched that horror movie, Summer of '84, which is fantastic.
You told me she was good in it.
If you want to see her in a good role in a good movie.
She was in that final season of Once Upon a Time, where again I think she was bland in that season, but it kind of, I don't know. I got Polly here. There was something.
Well, you're right. She felt more, even though she
there was something stagnant.
Even though she didn't interact with Alice in this episode, she felt more part of the Cooper family. And I, honest to God, think a huge part of it is just that she was doing what she wanted to do. Where it's like, I think the plot kind of owned her for a lot of the early run. But even, it's like, she has to be pregnant with Jason's twins, and she has to be this, and she has to be that. And now it was just like, sure, what the hell? Polly's a burlesque dancer.
Well, I think the thing for me with Polly was it felt like they had the concept of a character and a serviceable actress, and they thought, well, the math checks, we're good to go. Mm-hmm. And there was not, for me, from my viewing, there was not a spark anywhere in a way that there was a spark here. And giving her these clothes and giving her this material, she looked like someone to me.
Yeah.
Whereas in previous episodes, there's times where Tara was been sitting there and it's been face blindness. I'm like, I mean, I see the abstract concept of a pretty white woman.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot for me to like.
You're totally right, because like, even though like Mädchen and Lily don't necessarily look like each other, they suit each other, and they have such a dynamic chemistry that like watching them together is great. But you're right, it's like you can't just shove another blonde girl in there and say she's a Cooper woman. Like,
because I said when we were watching, if you want to watch along with us, and I recommend you do one of our better watch alongs, I was screaming. I was excited. I think I died 4 times. I was like, she feels like a Cooper woman here.
Yeah.
And she felt like a cardboard cutout in so many of the other stuff. So I don't know, that really, I was also very put out with how the show dismissed her in season 5. And so like bringing her back in season 6, and then this just it feels thoughtful.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that we are 4 episodes from the finale of one of the most plot heavy shows, and yet everything feels thoughtful and deliberate and downright like taking its time.
Yeah, and that's why the taking its time is specifically why I was like, I won't be mad if we just cruise to the conclusion of this and there's no like big finish. I think I'll be satisfied. I just love this is one of those,
think there's going to be a big I think there's going to be something.
Will too, but this is definitely one of those shows where like I don't need that. I would much prefer to just believe that the characters carried on living their lives after I stopped watching, after the cameras stopped following
them. I'm going to compare this. I felt it watching it, and I was curious when I was going to throw this down. This is giving me The Magicians.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is the highest of praise coming from me. And so I'm thinking that is what it might be, is I think it might be mild spoilers, like tone spoilers, not like deaths or anything. But when the show The Magicians ends, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It ends very much, the story still is going.
Yeah.
It's just we, the audience, are no longer watching it.
The cameras stop following.
And so I think that, like, I think there could be like a quantum leap thing where I could see them all sort of like taking hands and like leaping into the unknown.
Bye. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that is high concept to land.
Yeah.
Especially given what they've given us.
Yeah.
Like, I've thrown down the phrase sensate as well. Magician sensate also share a lot of DNA.
Yeah.
Those two. And I just love it. I love that it's seeming like the thesis statement is going to be I get by with a little help from my friends.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're sort of like this weird soulmate cluster and it means different things to different ones. We had an episode long on top of a season long arc of Archie and Reggie playing footsie.
Yeah.
Proverbial footsie.
Yeah.
So good. Nothing. Okay.
We didn't set up the episode, which is that it opens. Julian has a stag film. He's going to show it to everybody. And then he's like, well, Kevin and Clay steal the projector from the Babylonium and we'll put up a sheet.
Well, we opened the episode talking about beatnik poetry with Archie and Clay and Betty and Miss Grundy, and Archie is getting his entire life.
Yeah. Because it's like, you know, Allen Ginsberg used to kiss boys, and you can just do that. And he is mind blown.
And it doesn't have to mean anything. Yeah.
And so his mind is completely blown. So anyway, Julian is like, Kevin and Clay, you work at the movie theater. Go take the projector. And we'll put up a sheet in my barn, and we'll all 40 of us boys will watch this pornography together. I feel it. Okay, I understand the whole gimmick, but like that feels like too many boys.
Mm-hmm.
I know, obviously, but like that's a lot. Regardless,
okay, I will absolutely give you that. That when
watching porn together with your friends, I feel like is a rite of passage.
Max. Sure, but it is like a max 5.
Yeah,
because if there's any more boys, someone freaks out,
of course,
and ruins it for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a practice that's best done with 2, 3, or 4 other friends. Perfect. My personal experience is any.
So Kevin and Clay are legit stealing the projector, and Veronica is like, hello, what the fuck? And they're like, well, and they just come clean, because that's the thing. I was like, just ask Veronica. She's all for this. She'll let you borrow it. And instead, she's just
and they even touch on, go ahead.
She's just like, I'll let you have it here as long as I can bring Betty.
And I really, really appreciate that. And it made me think about something like pornography in a way I've never really thought about it before. I mean, I kind of have, but Veronica is outright intrigued and even offended that it wasn't run by her.
Sure, yeah.
And it's just, I think coming off of the Barbie movie and 38 years of being friends with women and stuff, I find it fascinating that women like sex.
Okay, if
and want to participate in it, but maybe the way that it's currently arranged isn't conducive for female enjoyment of it.
Well, the other thing, too, is, like, if I were a 16-year-old girl in 1955, you can bet your ass I would want to see the Stag film. I would be so curious. I would be like, yeah, for sure, especially because it's not how porn is now.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, was I'm like, would you be more open to recreational sex, watching pornography, if you felt it was more...
Yeah.
Oh.
What's the thing from New Girl where she's like staying in the hotel? Jess is staying in the hotel by herself, and she calls down to like room service, and she's like, I'll have this and this, and your most like tastefully directed adult film, and she's like, the farther back in the past, the better. And it's just like,
well, because okay, so there's sort of like a understanding that it's like men are visual and women are more
like plot based,
emotional, or more, and so it's like the kind of stereotype that I got growing up was that men just want the like raw, dirty, in your face visualness of it, and women want to feel like they're taking part in it.
Yeah.
And that's why women tend to go for reading. Women tend to like reading where men tend to like watching.
Well, also like...
But it never dawned on me that women could also like watching it if they didn't feel so assaulted.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the other thing too is that like, I think something that a lot of people grasp in a vague sense, but not in an actual direct sense, is a man will fuck a hole in the wall. And
listen up, Darlene. The mere fact that there's such a thing as an ugly hooker tells you everything that you need to know about men.
I'm just saying, like, there's so many things like that where, yeah, I feel like if watching porn didn't make me think that every woman involved was being assaulted, I think I would probably enjoy it.
You can't separate the misogyny.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very hard to, at least. So, yeah, if I were Betty, I would also be interested. And then as soon as I saw my sister come on screen, I would be disinterested. And also,
shocked.
It was, you know what?
You got there before I did.
You know what, too? Is I was sitting here and I was seeing this picture, but I couldn't place her face in this picture.
What did I say?
And so I just, but yeah, as soon as I was like, fuck me, it's Polly, isn't it? As soon as Betty was like, no, 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 no.
I also, like, outside of something like Sense8 or something that is inherently about sex, I haven't really seen sex treated this innocently, optimistically. Like, they are genuinely curious and excited for it. And I was transported this entire episode.
Well, it's a very...
I felt 16.
This season is a very coming-of-age season in a way that, like, even season 1 wasn't. It's because season 1 was like a murder mystery. And so we haven't been able to do this with these characters. And all of these actors are so gifted in very different ways. But they're all able to convey the coming of age part of it. And again, in different ways. Because like Archie and Reggie were in like a Nickelodeon. They were acting crazy. Like, so their
but I even think it's authentic.
The gulping,
like it was very male. Yeah.
But it was very silly. And I loved it.
They're just like their conversation and just that like so they start to watch the movie. It's a wrestling movie.
The second movie, because Betty stops the first movie, which was called The Wedding Night, because it's Polly, and she freaks out. She takes the print away, and so then Julian offers another movie.
Also, the best use of Julian this entire season.
Yes, this is fine. Like lovable scamp. For sure. Also,
like son of a bitch, I'm even fine with.
What does he need money for, though? He's charging these guys money for whatever. Regardless, so how do you
think the Blossoms stay rich?
It's that entrepreneurial spirit. So he gives them another movie and charges them $2 for it. And so they start watching it, and it's just two dudes wrestling. And they're both, they get just like progressively more horned up the whole episode until they are like literally panting at each other and Julian and then Twyla Twist. But after they watch the wrestling movie, they have that lovely conversation.
I'm so curious what the takeaway is going to be from this episode, because I think a lot of people are going to very wrongly accuse this episode and the show of gay baiting. That is not what happened in this episode.
No, just because I want them to kiss on the mouth doesn't mean I feel taken advantage of.
And I think there's a reality where that could happen, that could have happened, and frankly still could. But that's not exactly the point. The point is the intimate connection.
Of course.
It's not the swapping of fluids.
Because again, in a very interesting mirror to the Betty and Veronica scene from 4 or 5 episodes ago, we end the Archie and Reggie scene with them saying they love each other while they're gazing at the sunrise after having had sex with Twyla at the same time. I mean,
there's a lot of different ways to be a sexual being.
Yeah.
Is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
No,
it was lovely.
And there wasn't even the impulse for a no homo. Like there wasn't even.
Well, they got pretty up in Julian's face about it. Like, what's the big idea?
Oh, with Julian, but I'm saying with each other.
No,
like,
they weren't rude to each other, but it was like, how dare you give us a gay movie?
No. That's not what I mean. That didn't count. It just the fact that they didn't feel like they had to qualify.
No, of course. And again, the conversation in Archie's bedroom where he just was like explaining the beats to Reggie, where like apparently some guys just do that with each other.
Well, and especially
and
because
fine.
we even now, even progressive modern people now still think of sexuality, typically male sexuality, you know, as a binary, but also as like an infectious disease.
Sure. If you like, even thought about another penis,
catch it, you have it.
Yeah.
And it's like there are shades of gray.
Yeah.
Read Great Gatsby. There's 2 scenes in Great Gatsby that I don't know how no one ever picks up on, but no, it's just it's there. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess to reiterate or to sum it up, sure, I want a little bit more, but also I feel blessed. Like I feel emotionally touched by what I did see. And there was a moment, again, in our watch along, $3 tier, patreon.com, where I was like, I'm so happy for KJ and Charles because I know how close they are.
Yeah.
And I think especially Charles, the show has a little, like, I think they knew what they had with him because look at him. But I think they haven't fully known what to do with him.
Well, I think he really fell into that kind of Brad Pitt category where because he's so hot,
also
they don't realize he has chops, and he has real chops.
Well, not for nothing, he's done a few things.
Yeah.
He's done like
Poker
2
Face.
Movies.
Yeah.
He did Poker Face.
Oh yeah, he got a standing O at Con this year.
He did History of the World. Like, so it's like I could genuinely see, because he had multiple scenes with Dove Cameron in History of the World, that because she's a gifted comedic actress.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, like they did very good work. And again, like I said, this feels like a love letter to their relationship.
I was going to say, you can also just tell that they're having so much fun together.
And to mention it again, I keep saying this, but it's like KJ Apa is now properly a father.
Yeah.
So this has been remarkable.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you consider how popular and more so famous Riverdale is, for it to end this way is going to throw a lot of people.
Yeah.
That its legacy is not going to be, well, who knows what it will be, but that there's an argument to be made that its legacy is not going to be the shit show, which is what it's currently sort of famous for.
Yeah.
Wow. Cheryl and Tony had a very good plot. It falls to the bottom kind of for me with everything that was going on.
Well, they're being very careless.
For me, and I totally get it, but that's a suspension of disbelief.
Well, no,
I'm at a place where
they are being very careless because
you're like they're being canonically careless.
Penelope finds it and destroys everything. She knifes the painting, rips up all the photos,
which I think is crucial plotting, especially because it bookends the Alice and Betty scene, and I think so many people don't like Alice and are going to be wanting to put Alice in a certain box. And so I think to contrast that scene with Penelope, actual villain, and the way that she was taunting Cheryl, where it's like Alice is emotionally compromised. Like she
which we'll get there when we talk about that final scene. You're totally right, but you're right, the way that she was like teasing, because Tony and Cheryl did like a boudoir photo session in the chapel, and then very publicly in the house, Cheryl painted an oil painting of her favorite photo. What?
Yeah.
And so Penelope found it and went nuts. But she also, the way that she asked...
Well, she didn't go nuts. She slashed it
once.
Very deliberately.
Yeah.
And if she wanted to destroy it, she could have. She sent a sign.
Tore up all the photos.
Yeah. Okay.
Regardless, the way that she asked Tony if she still had the negatives makes me think she is going to submit the photos to that magazine. But I also feel like she's going to do something else too. Like
I just figured she was going to print it.
I feel like there's going to be more.
Mean Girls it. That's kind of...
So anyway, it was fine. And you're right that juxtaposing it with Alice, because...
But again, because I think is what I was getting at was not, like, I wasn't trying to diminish what she did. I was actually trying to highlight it.
Yeah.
Because what she did to Cheryl was send a clear, deliberate message.
Sure.
Whereas if the tables were turned and this was Alice would want it gone.
Disappeared.
Like stricken from the record in a way that Penelope is like, no, I need you to know.
I want you to know I saw it.
And that I don't approve. I'm going to quite literally divide the two of you.
Yeah. So then the whole episode with Alice and Betty. So Betty finds Polly because of the movie. And, you know, it was like right when she got to New York, she fell in love with some guy and he sort of tricked her into doing this Stag movie.
So Polly's burlesque name was polyamorous.
Amazing. 2 thumbs up.
Please welcome to the stage.
Love it. So she meets with Polly at Pops and they have a really good conversation. And she's like, Mom and Dad know what I do. They came to a show and they left after 5 minutes because they were like, you know, so out of hand about it. But they definitely know. And so Betty like confronted Alice about it. And also was like, well, while Polly's in town, she's going to do a show at the Babylonian because Veronica wants her to. I really want you to come. And Alice was like, ugh, of course not. And what was then...
And one of the prettiest dresses she's ever worn.
Oh my God. That, like, the floral on that pink. Ugh. I mean, so beautiful.
And then just, like, little bits of yellow.
Yeah. And so what really, really was interesting to me is there was a musical number in this episode and we like brought it out into the rest of the cast because Penelope and Alice also participated in it. And Alice was she has like all of the playbills and stuff she's looking through nothing but Polly memorabilia. And that was really interesting to me because it's like, it's not that she's not proud of Polly. It's that she, like you said, she wants it stricken from the record because
she can't reconcile.
It's embarrassing to her. It's a shame on the family.
I think it's what it does is it voids her existence.
Yeah.
It voids everything she's done.
Yeah.
And imagine, and again, it's like, though from the perspective of a modern audience, and remember the characters, Betty is also modern, it's very easy and clear to us that what Alice is doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But from Alice's perspective, she's doing everything right.
Uh-huh.
She has done exactly what was asked of her.
It's very Brie Vandekamp.
Stay tuned. Desperate Housewives coming soon. We've started.
Okay, you're totally right. And that's why I think the scene at the end hits so good.
And it went handheld. That the show does not do that a lot.
Literally and figuratively. Because the way that Betty, after having seen Polly perform and then putting herself in Polly's shoes, where it switches back between Tira and Lily a bunch of times, and it's beautifully choreographed, and they both... I've said it more than once already this season. I think Lily Reinhart's taking voice lessons because her voice is... it's always been great, but it's, like, phenomenal this season. Regardless, that scene at the end in the kitchen where she's like, hey, Mom, literally screw you, and, like, I'm gonna maybe be a burlesque dancer, and I'm gonna leave here literally the minute I can, and you'll never see me again, and you'll know that it's all your fault because you broke this family. And
and it's not feeling redundant or back and forth in the way that I think...
This feels like it's been building.
Yeah, but it's like when you consider that last week she told her that she loved her.
Yeah.
And I can feel...
But she's also received new information, so she's allowed to be angry again.
It's authentic in a way that I think if there wasn't so much care in the writing and the plotting, we would have whiplash and be like, this is getting exhausting.
Yeah, and the way that also it was like framed in the kitchen where Alice kept trying to go around her and Betty kept scooting into her pathway, and like just kind of like digging. And then, I mean, remarkable. When Alice slaps her and she's almost like, Betty is almost giddy. And then she says, I can't believe it took you this long to do that. Unbelievable. I mean, so good. Dramatically amazing, acted amazing. And then Alice is like, she can see it as Betty walks away. She's like, I can see her thinking she's right. I am the one that's doing this, but she doesn't know how to break out of this cycle she's put herself in.
Oh, because everything that she believes to be true rides on it.
It's fascinating.
We're reaching a point where Alice is going to have to choose her family or her
belief system. Yeah.
And I think I think she'll make the right choice.
I hope so. I find it, and again, we have sung their praises the entire series, even when it was garbage. But like Lily Reinhart and Mädchen Amick and their chemistry together, I just kind of want them to keep working together because they have such bomb chemistry.
I want Mädchen to direct Lily.
Oh yeah,
because Mädchen's been directing a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hit the keyboard.
But yeah, I mean, just phenomenal. Like so good. I loved every minute of it.
There's more. Oh, there is.
Well, Polly's getting married as well, and she wants Betty to be her maid of honor, which is sweet. And Veronica was just sitting back there like a little fairy godmother. Veronica
has been so good this season. Yeah, really good. I love it.
Really good.
But yeah, it ended with her sort of. What were they talking about? Her and Jughead?
The Hays Code, the comic.
But why was he consulting her about that? Just because
she's a good negotiator. Yeah.
Okay.
And so like she sort of helped him, but then like him and Mr. Fieldstone went to the meeting, and like the Dr. Werthers was like, this was never a negotiation. You either comply or you don't print comics anymore. And so he was sort of at the end of the episode, he was like commiserating with Veronica that there's really nowhere for them to go. And then they kept on having their little flirty, cute Nick and Nora shit, and then they freaking kissed. Finally.
And you even said in our watch along, you were like, I'm not even that invested in them. Really like, I'm not, but I just like to see it. And that's kind of.
I'm not, again, it's like, I'm not endgame with it, but I love that they picked it back up finally, even though I was like, Veronica, aren't you in love with Betty? Like, where did that go?
Again, I think it's
amorphous. But you're right. Like, I think it's like kind of all over. And then I don't know, it was just sort of sweet. They just kissed and it was great. I'm here.
And then next week Josie's back. What? I might perish.
Yeah.
Like
and it looks like she's a big star, and she's coming to do
this
a
show might kill me.
Yeah, I think she was like doing handprints in front too, which is hysterical. But yeah.
I feel lightheaded.
Yeah, it was a really good episode.
So it's been a week too.
Yeah. You've been here a whole week.
I've been in. It was my birthday. We had Barbie. I watched Little Mermaid again. Yeah, there's been a lot happening. So okay, I'm gonna cut us off now. I know there's more to be said. If any of it is of enough importance, obviously we'll touch on it in the next episode. And yeah. So please like and subscribe, comment, let us know what you think. Patreon, Cashapp, Venmo, all that stuff, you know the deal. And we'll see you back next week.
Bye.